If they don't know anything else about Rolls Royce, if you say the word car wash, case closed.
It was that combination of class and R&B, and it's everlasting.
We're really a funk mob kind of band, you know, at heart.
It's like a prize fight. Oh, we knocked them out in Detroit. Okay, now where's next?
One weekend we were riding the bus, the next weekend we were riding brand new cars. We were real young, and we were young with a bunch of money.
You have to first find out, how do you survive in that?
Every night on stage, I was high. Every night.
Just like every other group, excitement, insecurity, and greed.
We had 5 great years, and the bottom fell out of the boat.
Before I let anyone come into my house and tear it up, I'll blow it up myself.
I love that song.
Tremendous presence.
Total creative package.
One that was under the radar.
Funky from day one. Could have been a bigger band.
That music will never die.
Unsung. The story of Rolls Royce. In 1978, the classy funk pop band known as Rolls Royce was cruising down a highway paved with platinum.
Everything was a blessing. Everything had something to do with a power that none of us had any control of.
The group's first 3 albums had each sold over 1 million copies. 6 singles in 2 years had gone top 10.
Every song was a hit record. We had an album sell to platinum status in 30 days.
I'm wishing on a star.
Their success was based on a mix of talent and close relationships between a tight-knit band of brothers from the hood.
We had the same chemistry, okay? We all was focused on the same exact goals.
A legendary producer with a Midas touch.
If a chicken could cluck and key, he can get a hit record on it. Simple as that.
Everyone can see the loneliness inside me.
And a charismatic singer who defined their style and sound.
You've abandoned me. Love don't live here anymore.
But just as their success was peaking, those bonds fractured.
Tensions came out as Norman started to work more with Gwen.
We didn't want her to be called Rose and everybody thinking that it's her band when she really joined us, right?
She could feel the resentment. It was there all the time.
You've abandoned me.
And then one day, the band's most famous face simply disappeared.
I had just gotten to the point where I knew in my soul that I had to get away from this band. I had to leave it, you know? I mean, I was like a fugitive. I had to go into hiding.
South Central Los Angeles in the early 1970s was one of the last places in America you'd expect to see a Rolls Royce. But this is where Rolls Royce, R-O-S-E-R-O-Y-C-E, got its start. Just a few years earlier, riots had decimated Watts and much of the area.
Structurally damaged, apathetic teachers, vicious policemen. So you either got caught up into that and became depressed, or you learned to play an instrument.
A new gang called the Crips was beginning to lay claim to the streets. But South Central was also brimming with musical talent, and no one wanted to see the music go down, not even the gangs.
Some of those guys was like, man, don't y'all get wrapped up in what we into. Y'all keep doing what y'all do. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they didn't have to tell me twice.
As luck would have it, 3 kids with big dreams about burning it up as R&B stars grew up on the same block.
Who thought we would all be musicians? First me, then Henry, then Freddie, and we formed a group and stayed on the same street.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite amazing.
And you know what's funny? Don't this block look smaller now?
You know, either it looks smaller or we bigger. You know.
By the time Henry Garner, Kenny Copeland and Freddie Dunn entered Washington High. They were bent on forming a funk ensemble like Earth, Wind and Fire or Kool and the Gang. They scoured South Central for the best and most ambitious musicians they could find.
We want to go to the top. We want to see ourselves on television. We want a gold record. We would tell everyone, if you didn't feel this way, then you're dealing with the wrong people.
We used to sit there and pretend, oh, you know, we drinking champagne on the plane, okay? Are we eating at a nice restaurant? Are we doing this and this? That was a dream, and that was one of the keys, I think, that kept us formed because we had something to shoot for.
They picked up 2 excellent instrumentalists from nearby Locke High, another school that had lots of gang violence and musical talent. Keyboardist Victor Nix and a 16-year-old prodigy on bass named LaQuint Duke Job. He'd already shared a stage with the Coasters, the Drifters, and James Brown.
He was an incredible player. Anything he played, he'd pick up just like that, you know? And then he would play so fast on the bass.
He would play bass, dance like James Brown, and sing and never miss a note. I said, listen, whatever it takes, we have to get this guy.
That turned out to be easy. After 10 minutes of jamming on a Kool and the Gang song, Duke was in.
We started this song off and sounded better than the record. We all looked at each other, we just stopped playing on the same beat. Nobody cut it off, we just stopped playing it. We looked at each other and we just laughed hard as we could because we knew we had it.
The group added saxophonist Michael Moore, percussionist Terry Santil, and guitarist Kenji Brown, and stabilized at 8. They gave themselves an ambitious name, Total Concept Unlimited, TCU for short, and an equally ambitious handshake.
But we had something else with the other hand.
Yeah.
It was
I was out there. What I know about that?
Literally, it was about 5 minutes more. I'm not joking, man. We used to shake hands for about an hour.
With Kool and the Gang as a model, TCU aspired to be a musician's band, with all the guys sharing vocal duties and no lead singer stealing the show. In fact, the guys had a chip on their shoulder about singers.
We were kind of in competition with actually singers. You know, we would always say, why do singers always get the recognition? You know, let's make the horns, the horns in general, more popular than just singing.
TCU caught a break when they heard that Motown artist Edwin Starr, he was writing the success of a top 10 hit called War, was looking for a backup band. Starr came down to the rehearsal garage on Haas Avenue to check the group out. He was so impressed that he hired TCU on the spot and talked them up to celebrated Motown writer-producer Norman Whitfield. The man behind I Heard It Through the Grapevine, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, Cloud 9, and many other Motown hits.
I like to always read the album covers, okay, and the credits on there. And I noticed Norman Whitfield's name on there. Not on one song, not on 2 songs, but 90% of the album. Written by Norman Whitfield, produced by Norman Whitfield. So I say, I'm gonna meet that guy one day.
When he heard us, he told us then, he said, man, you guys know what locking is about. And that was the first time we ever heard the word locking. Okay, meaning stand straight ahead where the tempo don't be wavering.
Whitfield loved everything about TCU, including the fact that they were from the hood.
He told me, you know, I'm 1 in 100 million for statistics of making it. So he liked guys that weren't supposed to make it.
Like Berry Gordy, he knew raw talent is going to be in social economically depressed areas. And Norman, his mantra was that he could get a hit off of chicken. So let's go down to South Central and find some chickens that got some talent and put them together.
When Whitfield left Motown in 1974 and formed his own label, Whitfield Records, He signed TCU as one of his first acts. From the start, he had a vision of the group that was strictly first class. And he moved the guys into his Beverly Hills mansion to help prepare them psychologically for what was to come.
I counted like 105 gold records. You know, it's almost like storybook, but as he said, it's not called storybook, Mike. It's called Beverly Hills. And he said, if you're true to the craft, if you're true to the song, these are the rewards.
But to get those rewards, Whitfield said, the band needed what they'd always resisted, a lead female singer. On the recommendation of Joe Harris, a singer with the band The Undisputed Truth, Whitfield brought in a 17-year-old unknown from Florida by way of Biloxi, Mississippi, named Gwen Dickey.
When he got her on the microphone, it was case closed. She went and stayed in Beverly Hills at Norman's home, and the rest of it was history.
He thought that I had a very unique, distinctive voice, and he thought I had an interesting look that he could mold and shape. And he said, the next time you go back to Miami, you're gonna be so famous, they're gonna be running down the street to see you. And I was like, what?
The group was set, except for one final detail, a better name.
Norman says, I tell you what, Rose, R-O-S-E, Royce, R-O-Y-C-E, symbolizes the girl, symbolizes the guys, and it's a classy sounding car.
Rolls Royce. We're not coming out at Cadillac or the Chevy or Volkswagen. We're coming out at the top.
At the car wash, working at the car wash, yeah. Come on and sing it with me.
Singing had always come easily for 17-year-old Gwen Dickey. But when she came to Los Angeles to meet Norman Whitfield in 1975, she was clueless about pretty much every other aspect of the music biz.
I'd never seen a platinum and gold disc. And I was like, why do you have all these, why do you have them on the wall? How do you play them? And he laughed. Oh my God, Norman laughed so hard. He said, you don't play these. These are what you get when you sell millions of records. And if you're good, I'm gonna get you some.
For that to happen, Whitfield believed, Gwen would need a complete makeover. He moved her into his mansion and took charge of every aspect of her life.
He worked with her from the braiding of the hair to having someone come and dress her, having someone to teach her, you know, what the proper etiquette was. Motown's known for, you know, taking people and grooming them. Norman took the same Motown philosophy, and this is what he did with his artists.
Despite their attitude about lead singers, the guys in Rolls Royce recognized that Gwen brought something special to the group.
She stood out. You know, I don't really know how to say it, but the vibe, she just fit right in. So we just automatically took a liking to her, and she took a liking to us. So Norman said, this is what you call a marriage. He said, now, let's see how long we can make it last.
Whitfield saw opportunity when Universal Studios asked him to produce the soundtrack for a movie about, of all things, life in a South Central LA car wash. First, he had to convince Universal to take a chance on a bunch of unknowns. Then he had to convince Rolls Royce. Some of the guys in the band had actually worked in a car wash in South Central.
Oh, man. Long time, man. It's been a long time.
To them, the idea of cutting an entire soundtrack about a car wash seemed as uninspiring as working in one.
I thought it was going to be boring, to be honest. Because it was boring working here. So,
Well,
you know,
we didn't know what the story was going to be about.
I mean, how interesting can it be making a movie out of a car wash? I mean, I just couldn't see it back then.
The key, of course, was coming up with an irresistible title song. Inspiration struck while Norman was playing basketball at home with the guys.
Norman came flying in. When he plopped down next to me, he said, I just wrote a hit for you. So he's sitting there and he's rocking and he's saying, you might not ever get rich. And he's going, but let me tell you, it's better than digging a ditch. And I said, digging a ditch? What kind of song is that? I was like, I don't think I can sing that. You go sing it, you go sing it. So I said, you might not. He said, sing it, really sing it, you know, make it funky, make it rock.
You might not ever get rich, but let me tell you, it's better than being a bitch.
And he said, yeah, sing it like that, sing it like that. I was like, this guy is off his head. He is crazy.
Once in the studio, Whitfield demanded perfection at every turn, starting with hand claps.
It was like 6 of us, and we did that for almost 2.5 hours. I was cussing, and then I got cursed out too, because a couple of times my clap got flat and buffed and it started all over.
The clap set up a funky mechanical beat, as if an actual car wash had rhythm, which is what Whitfield was going for.
He's singing about his rhythm. Now listen, hi-hat.
Here it is.
Here it is.
Oh, man.
Listen to the sound.
Listen.
Talking about the car wash.
Yeah.
Talking about the car wash, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
talking
boy, that's
about.
funny. That's funny.
Whitfield worked through every bar of Car Wash with perfectionist care. He had Royce record 76 versions of the song.
This one's too fast. This one's too slow. This one's got a bad bass note in it. This one's got a bad drum look in it. Over and over and over and over. And the one that finally wound up being the finished record was take number 1. Wouldn't you know it?
Whitfield thought the Car Wash album would be stronger if one of the guys could sing lead on some of the songs to balance out Gwen. He decided to go with Kenny Copeland.
He said, man, you know, you got a nice voice. He said, do me a favor. Meet me back here at such and such a time, and we're going to go over a few things. Next thing you know, I Want to Get Next to You came up, and it was time for Kenny to come up to bat. And when he opened his mouth, I couldn't believe it. Hell, he couldn't believe it once he came out of the control room. When he listened to it back, he was like, man, is that me?
Sitting here in this chair, waiting on you, oh baby, to see things my way.
'Cause you're my dream come true. I must have sung that for about 150 times. You know, and until the day, I still don't know what he wanted. And when I got to the last session, I was so beat up. And I said, I'll never sing again. This is it. If singing is this hard, I'd rather play my trumpet, you know. But, you know, the rewards were greater than how I felt.
'Cause you're my dream come true, and I wanna get next to you.
Indeed, Kenny sang so well that some members of the band began second-guessing Whitfield's decision to hire Gwen.
It brought about a certain amount of conflict in the group. You know, why can't I sing Car Wash? Why did we need a girl if I could sing this good? We were already together. Why did we need a female singer? Created a lot of animosity. And I don't know if they ever got over that animosity.
Especially after Norman gave Gwen Dickey a new name.
He said, from now on, your name is Rose.
My name is Rose Norwood, and I'm a sweet Capricorn.
And I said, my mother's gonna have a fit because she named me Gwen. He goes, your mother won't say anything when I make you rich and famous.
We didn't want her to be called Rose and everybody thinking that it's her band when she really joined us, right? And we raised hell about it.
Time on my hands since you've been away, boy. I ain't got no plans. No, 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 no.
By the time Royce's debut album, Car Wash, was released in October of 1976, producer Norman Whitfield felt confident that he had stacked the record with hits, from infectious dance tunes to melodic ballads like I'm Going Down.
We wanted to make the songs stronger than the movie. In case the movie flopped, people will still like the music. And that's what we shot for.
Indeed, Car Wash the movie looked like it might bomb until the soundtrack took off.
Since you've been gone.
They did not expand the theater showing until the music became such a hit that everybody wanted to see this movie that the music went to. So it was kind of interesting because the soundtrack actually made the movie a hit.
As for Rolls-Royce, hearing themselves on the radio was a beautiful new sound.
Something goes through you like you say, I finally arrived. I was done. Couldn't nobody tell this kid nothing, boy. I thought I had done everything that I needed to do in the world.
The rush that you get from that is just undescribable. All of that hard work, all of that beating up, now I see the rewards. Now I understand what Norman is talking about.
One weekend we were riding the bus, the next weekend we were riding brand new cars. It just happened that fast.
Spurred by the success of 3 hit singles, including the title track, the Car Wash album sold over 2 million copies and won the 1977 Grammy for Best Soundtrack of the Year.
Norman was over the moon about the Grammy. We were his Temptations, we were his Diana Ross, we were his Supremes. You know, we were all those rolled into one because this was his baby.
Promoters were clamoring for a tour, and Norman Whitfield spared no expense, handpicking lavish materials for Gwen and hiring renowned designer Bob Mackie to create her gowns.
The whole thing of Rolls-Royce, the name and the look, was a combination of classic lines and African sensibilities. White society and black society. This is the classiest group in the genre, and they turned out to be just that.
He said, it doesn't matter if you go on stage and you have a bad throat. As long as you look amazing, nobody's gonna remember you had a bad throat.
We were spending $2 grand on a suit back then, $1,000 for pants. My mother was like, listen, I can make you some better pants.
In the winter of 1976, Rolls-Royce hit the road for a 9-month tour, opening for a bill of R&B superstars that included Bootsy Collins and Parliament Funkadelic. But the stylish funksters with the triple platinum hit quickly moved up.
One minute we're first up, the next minute we go out, we're the third group, the next minute, you know, we're the headlining act.
Sharing a stage with funk mobs like Cameo and P-Funk, Rolls-Royce needed some material that would allow the guys to throw it down.
The band, they got to get off too. They got to play, and Do Your Dance was our, okay, this is our song.
We were as good as anybody. The horns, the keyboards, it was pristine. Everything was perfect. When we left the stage, it was like a prize fight. Already we knocked them out in Detroit. Okay, now what's next?
The tour was a gas and a grind. Over 50 dates, thousands of miles by bus, and an endless string of motels. And a problem about Gwen, or Rose, as the fans and the press persisted in calling her, that was simmering to a boil.
I heard one of the guys in the group complaining to Norman about the press calling her Rose. You know, and Norman was asking me, do you believe that? If she's getting gold and platinum each time, what would you care about what they call her?
It was only natural that she would get the spotlight because she was out front most of the time, and some egos just couldn't take it.
I'm wishing on a star to follow where you are.
Despite the phenomenal success of Car Wash, Rolls-Royce still had to prove that they were more than a one-album wonder. For that, Norman Whitfield turned to his girlfriend, Billy Calvin, who had just written a song originally intended for Barbra Streisand.
When I started singing it, he said, no, sing it